How do you get the purpose going? And I'm going to talk about there are four mechanisms that I outlined that I learned about in my research. The first was discovery, and I use the word discovery. How do I even know what our purpose is? And it's not inventing, it's discovering. So that word is very carefully picked. I'll talk about disseminating. How do I communicate the purpose in my organization? And then the big one is, how do I rewire my organization around my purpose? And then the last one is, how do I reaffirm and keep this thing going? Now, let's walk through each of these one at a time. Let's start with discovery. This is Jon Vignustrup, the former CEO and now chairman of Lego. And look what he says. If you want to transform, not just turn around a company, you need to find the essence. Just like finding out your purpose in life, it's not up to you, not up to management to decide that. It's not a rational choice. You don't decide what your calling is. You detect it. So for established companies, like Lego, the whole thing was going back to its roots and saying, who were we? Why did we exist? What was our purpose before? What is our purpose today? What should our purpose be tomorrow? It was trying to draw a thread from the past into the future. And you do that in a very delicate way. You can look backwards, but so that you can look forwards. So this was the first piece of the puzzle, was how do you even detect your purpose? But by the way, startups have it easier. Let's be very clear. Startups have it easier because they can take it from ground zero. And some of the really successful startups I looked at, the founder had made it part of their own story, even to investors early on, that we have a purpose. Now, finding a purpose was easy. What comes next is much harder. And this is the part now. The next part, first part of this is, how do you disseminate purpose? And I found this idea that purpose dissemination is about telling a big story. Big story meaning, how do you tell stories? How do we communicate ideals? Every religion in the world communicates ideals through storytelling, right? Some powerful storytelling. And a lot of these leaders, one of them being Indra Nooyi at Pepsi, how do you tell a story to inspire others to believe in an ideal? You can't say the purpose of the company is this, now please believe it. How do you tell it in a story form? How do you capture it? Because it has to have an emotional resonance, not just a factual resonance to it. So how do you actually find a way to connect that purpose in a way that is deeply resonant with people who are on the receiving end of it? The third piece of it is rewiring. And I want to just kind of get through to the rewiring piece of this whole thing, because this is hard work. This was heavy lifting. Now, we have a classic framework we teach about organizational architecture called the Congruence Framework, also called the Alignment Framework, and say any organization has four moving parts: structure, process, people, and culture. Strategy and markets is outside it, because you have to first figure that out, and then once you figure that out, then you have to have an organizational architecture to execute the strategy. And we say there is wiring connecting all these, so all of these things should be reinforcing. Culture, structure, process, people, all of them should be talking to each other and reinforcing each other. Now, we understand all these, and there's lots of research on these subjects. But here's the thought experiment for you. What happens when you bring purpose into this conversation? How does that change everything for you? And that's what I started to find. I found the conversation with culture changed and people changed. So let me take that piece of it first. One of the things I discovered was how to, in purpose-driven companies, the idea was culture and purpose were tightly intertwined, as were people. How do you connect the company's purpose to people's individual purpose? At Microsoft, the CHRO, Kathleen Hogan, says that you don't really work for Microsoft until Microsoft works for you. Now, what does that mean? The idea there is that you're not going to buy into some company purpose until you yourself are feeling that you are living your own life purpose. And so our goal is to help you discover and surface and live your life purpose, and maybe make Microsoft part of that journey that you are individually on. How do you create that caring context? What kind of people do we want to hire who really resonate with our purpose, if you will, as an organization? So actually, if you really look inside, the wiring inside the organization starts to change in a very deep purpose organization. So words like collaboration and empowerment are not just kind of loosey-goosey, easy to throw around words. They actually carry meaning. So this was the other piece. And by the way, measurement also starts to play into this. Measuring purpose is I wouldn't say fool's errand, because it isn't, but it's very hard. But there are companies like Ernst & Young, EY, that I looked at. And I figured, who would know better than an accounting firm how to measure stuff, especially what looks unmeasurable. And EY has created a very sophisticated set of measures around how every partner is measured and rewarded, not only around the economic deliverables they always had, but around purpose. So I think it's important, because it's really hard to measure the why, This why stuff is not easy. But I found these companies embarked on an effort to measure the why. It's about discovering it, it's about disseminating it, it's about rewiring the organization, and I didn't talk about reaffirming it. But there is ample evidence I saw of purpose decay in companies. They had it once upon a time. And you see it very starkly in small enterprises where people talk in nostalgic terms about the good old days. There was a time when we were like this. That has been the arc of my conversation in this research. Is this an idealistic project? Absolutely. Is everyone doing it? No. But I would like to believe that the companies I studied show others the way. That maybe there is a possibility for us to reimagine how we think about business. And this is not a new idea.